We all love it. We all want it. It's passive income. But is passive income really real, or is it just a bunch of BS? Let's talk about that today. Hello, my fellow Ripplers. This is Chris Miles, your cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor. This show is for you. You work so hard for your money, and you're now ready for your money to start working harder for you now. You want that freedom. You want that cash flow today because you want to become work optional, where you work because you want to, not because you have to. Why? Because you have enough passive income coming in that you don't have to keep working anymore, right? You work by choice. But guys, I know you're not just want here to just get rich and just get to, have all that time freedom, although we want that too. But it's about living a rich life. And the way to do that is that you, as you start to prosper financially, are able to create a greater ripple effect through the lives of others. That is a ripple effect I'm here to create for your life today. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate, again, you guys are always binging on these episodes. You've been sharing, you've even been binging on our YouTube channel. In fact, if you haven't done so, subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Money Ripples with Chris Miles, or whatever we call it. It's something like that. Chris Miles Money Ripples, something like that. Whatever it is, Money Ripples, look it up and subscribe to that channel because we have other videos, other topics that come up there right now. Okay, guys, so let's talk about this passive income. Is it real? Is it just a myth? Is it a unicorn, right? Actually, I was on a podcast recently where the guy said, I'm going to call this like, the unicorn of, the passive income unicorn or whatever, right? Because, even in the real estate space, I will see so many people say, come on, this is BS. It's not really passive. It's just, you're just trying to sell us something. And I'm here to say that it's so true. Most people, when they talk about passive income, are literally trying to sell you something that's anything but passive, right? Because let's be honest here, right? How many times you've heard people say, make passive income in your business? But then you got to create a brand new business to do it. Maybe it's like this Etsy shop or this Amazon store or something like that, but you're still having to manage it and do it. And it takes hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours to get to that point. And then even when you get it set up, still you're having to do things to manage it and do stuff with it. So you still have this part-time job at least, right? Or even worse, in the real estate space, they talk about passive income. Although there is the legal definition of passive income that accountants use, because that is there's a passive income term that IRS uses regarding rental real estate, but they use it in real estate for all kinds of things. And then you start to set up this wholesale business, which is like overtime hours. And yeah, you can set up people in place, but it's not really passive, is it? And flipping properties is definitely not passive. You might spend 100 hours plus trying to flip one single home. So it's not passive, is it? And the reason that this has been inspired for me is because just recently I was out in Austin, Texas, and I've joined this mastermind group where there's guys that are making millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in their businesses. Now, these are not typically the people I talk to on my podcast, right? Although there might be some that obviously want what we talk about here. They want that, but most of the time they're making millions in their business and they're just honed in, focused on that. Now, there was one guy in particular. This guy was like an AI type of man. I mean, I would say an AI fanatic. I wouldn't even say an expert. He was a fanatic. This guy had some pretty interesting things, even kind of a doomsday perspective with AGI and things like that, right? But cool guy. And as we're sitting there, we're just kind of on the couch talking after we did a meeting. And he's like, so tell me what you do, Chris. Like, what does it you really do for clients? I said, well, pretty simple. We have this one-on-one white glove type of process, like this game plan that we create, help you create enough passive income to become work optional where you work because you want to, not because you have to. Basically, like what I say on the show, right? So really, we help people one-on-one to be able to do that. It's like an anti-financial advisor because we're not just trying to pitch them into mutual funds and stocks, but instead we get them to do things like with real estate investing and things backed by real assets that create actual real passive income right away. And what does he say? He's like, oh, come on. Like, is anything really passive? Even in real estate, I've never seen anything that's passive. He's like, in fact, I'm so busy as being a business owner right now. I just figure I'm just going to throw my money into the spider index, the ETF. I'm just going to throw my money in the spider ETF. And that's it. He's like, it's probably not the best choice, but at least I don't have to think about it. I just throw it in there and it goes there. And it led to a really interesting conversation because I believe he's not alone. And maybe you're just like him too. Maybe you're thinking, okay, like, let's be honest, Chris, like I don't have to think anymore because I work. Okay. It's not like I'm unemployed trying to look for passive income. And maybe there's a few of you are. And if so, maybe these active type of incomes that talk about being passive that aren't could be a choice for you. But for most of everybody we talk to and all the clients we work with, they're busy people. They've got lives too. When people say, I don't have time, it's like BS. That's why you don't. The reason you don't have time is the reason why you need to make time for this, because you will perpetually never have time because you're always saying you don't have time. Whether you're a business owner or not, if you're always making the excuse you don't have time, you need that time freedom. And the way to get time freedom is to buy it back with income, with other sources of income besides your active income, which always does it. Now, I'm all about your number one investment being your business, for example, or your job. That should be your number one investment. And I even told this guy too, it's like your business, you're right. You shouldn't detract from your business. You shouldn't be getting distracted by trying to, become a real estate professional, that would take you away from making money in your main stream of income, your main business. That's your specialty. That's your real thing, right? Hold on that thing, because why go over here, get distracted by something that might cost you millions over here, right? It's like, exactly, Chris. Like it cost me money to get distracted from my business. I'm like, exactly. And that's why we exist. We exist for that very purpose, because everybody keeps saying, well, I don't have the ability because I don't have to learn all this stuff. You don't have to learn that much. Like, it doesn't take that much to know how to ask the right questions. And even better, with our VIP clients, we even tell them, it's like, listen, here's a whole bunch of people you can talk to. Here's people that I've invested with or we've vetted and other clients have invested with. You can try them out. We don't ever give them investment recommendations. We don't say you should do it, but we're like, look, here's people we've vetted. These are people who have great track records. Instead of you having to Google and try to find it, which this guy had a concern about. He's like, I don't have to find the deals next. I'm like, we found the deals. The deals are already found. You just have to figure out which deals are right for you. And we even help with that with the strategy side. We even narrowed down the options. So you have to go and talk to 20 different operators. You can talk to 3 to 5 or 6 maybe at most, and then work with that and then get your plan in motion. And next thing you know, bam, you've got passive income, and it's actually passive. Now, I will say this about passive income. Passive income does not equate to passive thinking. Passive income does not mean passive thinking or brainless investing. This is the problem that this guy had. I said, here's the problem. You don't think about that money. What happens when you ignore anything in life? What happens if you ignore your business? I go out of business. Right. What happens if you ignore your spouse? I'm not married anymore. What do you think is going to happen to your money if you ignore it? I'll lose it. Yeah, that hard money you worked so freaking hard for in your business, you worked your tail off. And then what happens is that you go and throw it into a spider fund, which, by the way, the stock market is more than double what it should be. But yeah, it goes up over time. And I'm dollar cost averaging. Oh, BS. If you're dollar cost averaging, you wait for the market to crash and then you would dump a bunch of cash in there. Save up the cash, invest in your own business. In fact, why invest in everybody else's business but your own? But that's the problem. Because if you're a business owner, you keep reinvesting in your business over and over. Guess what? You're perpetually always spending money in your business. You're not profitable. You're not taking that money home. You're not investing it to create other streams of income, and you're stuck in that business. Yes, can you create streams of income in your business, multiple streams? Yes, you can. Can you put people, processes, and systems in place to help free up your time? Yes, you can. And yes, you can do all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you're still going to say, yeah, but I still have to keep working. I still have to keep managing my business. You're right. You're dang right you do. And you're going to have to manage your money to some level. Now, I'm getting so freaking excited. I keep hitting my microphone. Sorry. I'm using my hands a lot. So anyways, yes, you have to manage some things, but stewardship doesn't mean you have to babysit it, right? Maybe if you've been in business, you probably realize you do babysit maybe way too many times. I know I do sometimes. But with investments, you don't have to babysit if they're truly passive investments. And this is something our clients have learned time and time again. And just so you know, if you're thinking oh, I'm too busy, well, there's already hundreds of our clients that have proven you wrong, and they're probably busier than you anyways, right? You might think, I work 80, 90 hours a week. I'm like, then you need this. You need this, for a matter of fact, just so you can buy your time back. That's what happened with one of our clients, where he was working overtime hours, working in his practice. And then finally, when we were able to free up $6,000 a month of cash flow, he finally gave himself permission to stop working on weekends and even take a half day off on Fridays. So he was only working 4.5 days a week. Man, can you imagine how much better he felt? And then when you start to have space, you start to create more time for your family, more time for yourself. Guess what? That also allows you to do other things to create more passive income, to create more time and more cash flow and things like that. That's what you need. Right now, if you're in that desperate place because you're working 100-hour weeks, you're hustling and going crazy, then yes. So that's what you need. You need that passive income right away. But truly passive income, It actually works. And he said, like, yeah, but Chris, like, I don't want to have to learn all this real estate stuff. I don't have to learn about, how they operate, how they do things, how they're reporting and looking up this and looking up that and looking at this and looking up that. I said, that's the good news. You don't have to. In fact, if you learn to ask the right questions, you can usually pretty much figure out how to shortcut this a lot better. And yes, we teach you those questions. We teach you what those are. I even give people a spreadsheet to say, hey, you can ask these 8 questions. This probably within a matter of minutes will help you know whether it's a good investment for you or not. And of course, if you can find the right people, you're connected to the right people, the right deals, the right operators, because you bet on the jockey just as much, if not more, than the horse. Guess what? Now you have to go through all that pain and hassle and effort trying to find them. Now, I'm not opposed to our clients finding other deals, and they do. They'll still go find other stuff too. But it's so nice for so many of them. They're like, oh, at least I can find those deals. And they know it's not guaranteed. They know there's always risk. And even if they've paid well for decades, it doesn't mean that the next deal might go south, right? But I'm so happy to know that really less than 10% of our deals have ever had issues like that, where the vast majority of stuff that our clients have done have been good. So again, is it guaranteed? No, of course not. And if you have the right diversification, it works great. But that's why you work side by side with somebody to help you walk along that path. It makes it so much easier. If you've been following this podcast, you're probably looking for great ways to create passive income right now, right? Well, we got you covered here with Central Lending. Central Lending specializes in alternative investments that actually are designed to create steady returns and long-term financial security for you and your family. Now, they prioritize transparency. They love, building those strong relationships, giving you that confidence and peace of mind, knowing that you have your money working harder for you, so you don't have to work so hard for that money. You want to learn more how to do that? Go to centrallending.com and check out what they've got today to create your passive income and wealth creation right now. So again, coming back to that passive income, is it passive? Well, it depends now. Now, when we talk about turnkey investments, right? Turnkey real estate properties, I would say is one of the least passive investments that our clients do. Because when you get a turnkey property, you now have to manage the property manager. Now, this is good, right? You do need to still manage your stuff. Now, I'll tell you with my property management, it's not like I'm checking much more than once a month, for a few minutes. Come on, that's not a big deal. A few minutes a month is nothing. That might as well be passive. I'm always shocked people like, no, I just want to set it and forget it. Well, set it and forget it is what a financial advisor teaches you so you don't fire them because you realize that you're never going to hit your goals doing what they recommend. And I know I kind of said that pretty bluntly, but it's true. Like, unless you're saving 50% of your income, you're going to have a really, really hard time having financial freedom the way that they're recommending. So, that whole set and forget it is the exact reason why when you ignore something, you'll lose it, right? Whatever you pay attention towards will expand and grow. Do you want your money to expand and grow, or do you want it to shrink? Pay attention to it. You got to pay attention. You got to be a wise steward of your money. That steward that buried it, remember that steward that buried it in the Bible? Lost it. It was given to the guy that had 5 and made 10. You don't have to be an active investor. You can still be a passive investor, but still manage it. Just come from a place of stewardship. Say, I am responsible for this. So, yes, if you buy a turnkey property, if you have a bad property manager, it can actually become something of a little bit of a headache. It can become like a little mini part time job if you have to manage it yourself. Now, some people are willing to do that because they'll make a little extra cash flow. Some people want to do it because they like to have that control. It's really up to you. Now, one of my friend Brent Bowers, I've had him on my podcast before. He was talking to another mutual friend of ours, and he said, because he was arguing about passive income, he's like, the most passive thing you could do is lend your money out. You can lend your money out to another investor where they're doing all the work, they're doing all the hassle. Now, do you have to screen that person? Yes, of course you do. You got to know what they're doing with it. Yeah, but the thing is this: like we've advertised like central lending. In fact, you probably just already saw the ad here recently by this point. But with central lending, like good example, where they actually go and they say, "Hey, we're vetting through all these people asking for money, these real estate investors. We're going through and vetting them." Even if you go and get the individual note, not just go into the fund where it's more diversified, but you do the individual note where you actually go onto a single property with a single investor, they've already done 10 plus hours of legwork for you to say, here, let's lay it out. Here's all the answers to your questions. Here's the things all about them. Here's even their credit situation, right? Or here's what the deal is. Here's how much loan to value you've got and things like that. It's done for you. So there are done for you options. Now, of course, they take a cut, right? That's why you don't make, always the full return. They still make their money off on the back end too. But is that worth it to be able to have that time freedom as well? It's like, are you willing to say, I'm willing to take 10, 11% so that I have freedom versus maybe I could make 13, 14, 15% on the back end if I just did this all myself. You could. You absolutely could. But again, what's more valuable? Is it the return or is it the time? And that's a choice you have to make, right? And so I told him, I was like, dude, you could lend out money. And this going back to this business owner, I'm like, yeah, you can lend out money to people. And it's not that hard. Like if you have those people, you find those particular people that you do trust and that they're doing good, consistent deals, you don't have to spend a lot of time. You might spend a matter of minutes to say, I like that one. Let's go on this deal, right? And you can do that. And yeah, it could be short term. It could be come back sooner than later. It could be a longer term lending. So lending can be a great one. Syndications are also very passive, right? Again, you got to look into the deal. You got to know what you're getting into. You got to understand it to some degree. But does that mean you have to go digging around, and like have to like go do FBI background checks? No, although that may not be a bad idea. But sometimes a Google search is about all you need to do. I mean, Reddit threads, I mean, they're awesome. Like just the fact that there are people out there. Now, I can't always trust Reddit because it's people that are experienced, but sometimes you get this your reputation management of a company, it's hard to tell. So I'll look up companies, I'll look up their background and stuff. But again, when I have that relationship with them, now it's done. I've got that relationship. Now it's just a matter of, okay, do I like the deal? That's half my battle right there. And so to be able to start building up this network, which is I've done over the last 20 years, right? Is building up this network of investors and people so that then I have more than enough deals. And somebody even came to me recently, like, "Hey, do you want to look at this new deal? It's a business thing. You invest in marketing agencies." And I was like, "That's cool, but I've got more than enough deals already, and they're backed by real estate. I actually have a real asset backing up. It's not just hopes and dreams, and business plans and things like that. I love I can go into something that I could have some collateral on. So yes, I can do turnkey rentals, which are kind of semi-passive, in my opinion. We got lending, which is passive. We got syndications, which are also passive. We can go to business partnerships where again, I'm the financer. They're the ones that do the work, which is what I'm doing with raw land right now. I could be a business partner like oil and gas and things like that. Again, you can look at the deal, but once you have those good connections, and by the way, just so you know, bonus here, oil and gas has some of the biggest crooks in the space. Okay. Just be aware. I've found a lot of bad operators in the oil and gas space, which is why I was actually opposed to it for my clients for so long until I had multiple clients saying, you should talk to this guy in particular. And now he's one of the more popular people that people will invest with within our VIP group. So anyways, that's the thing. It's like you can be very passive, but it means that you have the money to go to those operators that are doing all the work. You're always exchanging something, time and energy and or money. And in the case of this, if you want to be passive, it requires you to use your money. So if you don't have money right now, don't even worry about passive income right now. You just need to worry about how do I create more enough active income, control my expenses, make sure I'm a wise steward of the money I'm spending so that I have more to save and build that up. This is why people will do like infinite banking and stuff too. Even if they can't do anything else, they'll at least do infinite banking, just like many of our other clients that have lots of money will do too. Start somewhere, start building that up, build up a savings account. Worry about that first. Get your cash flow under control. You might be paying off debts, high interest, credit cards, things like that. Pay those off first before worrying about investing. Get rid of those things, right? Now low interest loans like cars and mortgages, maybe not so much, but maybe you got those high interest credit cards that are just killing you right now. Maybe pay those off. Now, if you got cash, you're like, what do I do? Cool. We help people do that as well and figure out what they do with their debt. But that's the thing is like, we're going to focus on the cash flow control first before we even worry about the investing side, even when we coach our clients one-on-one. So just remember, is passive, is it really passive? For the most part, no, not based on what people are saying. Because again, they're trying to sell you some business, they're trying to sell you into some investment. And sometimes it is passive. Maybe they're saying, hey, you can go into it with our real estate operators, but then you have to question, you say, well, are they just telling me it's passive because they're trying to sell me on something? Or is it because it's legit? And yes, it's passive too. So remember, passive income is usually based on the IRS, real estate passive income. But at the same time, can it be passive? It can absolutely be passive where you don't have to be the operator. You don't have to be the one babysitting it. You don't have to deal with the tenants, the toilets, and the trash. You let them deal with all that headache and that hassle. And it's even better if you have a curated list of those people too. So then you don't have to go digging around searching and hoping you don't find the charlatans or the bad actors that are out there. And there are a lot. And some of them are even on a lot of podcasts. Some of them I refuse to even put on our podcast because of that reason. By the way, did you know I actually just rejected two big name people in the real estate space just in the last week or two? Two of them. I won't say their names, but two big ones, including somebody who has like millions of followers on Instagram. I said, no, absolutely not. Even though they're like, hey, we'll have you on his show. I'm like, nope, Not going to do it because I don't want for 1 second you to even think I think that's a good idea to go put money with that person. Okay. So that's the big thing is like, I'm very careful. It doesn't mean I'm perfect because I might bring people on a show I think have a good story. And then I find out that maybe they have bad investments. But regardless, the thing is this, is that passive investing is possible when it's done the right way. But do not for 1 second believe that passive investing equals passive thinking. You do not turn your brain off for 1 second. You still manage it. You're a steward of your money. Be a steward, but being a steward does not make it another big part time or full time job. That you don't have to do. You don't have to go into major wholesaling and flipping properties unless you're starting with very little cash. That might be the thing to do. If you have little cash, use time and energy to make more money, whether it be in your active job or your business and or on the side if you've got time to do that kind of stuff. But passive investors, I'm talking to you, you want to be passive is because you've got cash, you've got money you want to use, and you want to use it in a way that actually makes you money and buys you your time freedom back. You don't have to be a babysitter. You can be somebody who actually has those passive investments working for you today. If you ever want to know how to do that, I'd recommend this. Go to moneyripples.com. There's a passive income calculator you can try out right now. Try that passive income calculator today. Go and make it a wonderful and prosperous week. We'll see you later.